Luke, you're telling me I could learn Italian?
That's right, Jackson. And we're going to learn about that today. I'm Luke, and this is polýMATHY.
So Luke, we're on your channel.
We are.
I want to take the baton here for a second. Let's say I'm a person with some background in language, and I am.
This is true.
I've encountered my share of languages here and there. I'm interested in learning Italian. Don't know much of a lick of it, other than I'm culturally literate. I've come across words here and there, sotto voce, mangiare, things like that.
Bravo.
Okay. Counted some Spanish in my daily life. What can you tell me about Italian as a language?
Well, Italian is not a highly inflected language like, say, Latin, from which it comes, but it is a fairly inflected language for a lot of English speakers. Now, for someone like you, who's of course studied a variety of both ancient and modern languages, you understand things pretty intuitively, like verb conjugations. And a lot of people who come to this channel have had some exposure to that. So verb conjugations and things like grammatical gender, which always confound English speakers in the beginning. I remember when I started learning German, it was like, what? 3 genders? And then when
because that was your first foreign language, right?
It really was. Yeah, I had some kind of sense of Italian from talking with my father when I was younger, but German was the first serious, like in school, in class, studied language, and then learning Italian after that was dramatically easier in some respects, thanks to that background. So it's really different, I think, and you've probably had the same experience. One's first studied foreign language gives you a sense of grammar, because I think it's pretty hard to study grammar in your native language. I don't know if did your...
That's just how it works to you in your native language? Yeah.
Like, I know that some places, like some languages actually go out of their way, some countries, I guess, and their education system, as was once true, I think, in Anglophone society, go out of their way to teach the grammatical things. I remember hearing my parents, my mother had gone through like parsing sentences in English. Now, parsing is something I only learned about when I learned about Latin way later.
Right.
Parsing sentences, it wasn't something I did. But when I took German, I learned about there's subjects and objects and all these things, verb conjugations, how it all fits together.
Your own language makes sense to you once you have another language. It makes sense to you once you've been able to step out of it for a minute.
Having points of comparison is really vital. As much as we study languages in isolation, it becomes infinitely tempting to study languages, especially if there was contact between them. Hence, interested in Latin, I got interested in Greek. Having studied Italian, I got interested in French, Spanish, Romanian.
And so, assuming that someone maybe is like me and maybe has a little bit of background with some of the languages, even some closely related languages, say Latin or Spanish, how much can I expect if I've got some background in Spanish to recognize an Italian?
Well, something that's great that is true of a lot of these language groups. Could be a Slavic group, could be Germanic group, but since the Romance languages tend to be so widely popular, and of course Spanish as a native language is spoken by so many millions of people, that people are like, okay, if I've learned one Romance language, they know then, or they hear that it's told, which is true, it's pretty easy to pick up another one. Like to this day, my Spanish, which has had good times and it's had bad times and it's pretty rusty at the moment, but to this day I really feel like my Spanish, to both in a kidding way and literally, is just a cipher of my Italian that I'm spontaneously altering as I speak, until I get comfortable with it, which can take, I don't know, several hours or days.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But could you do the same thing through Spanish? So you're a really proficient Spanish speaker, could you kind of learn to code your Spanish more Italian?
Absolutely.
In a sense?
Yeah, especially if you know Latin too, because there are one of the things that I think can very mildly confuse students of Italian who have some Spanish experience is just that Italian has kind of what look like 4 infinitives. Now, the way they're conjugated, they don't really... It's like 4 classes of verbs, 4 conjugations.
Are, ire.
Exactly. And there's 2 kinds of ere, just like Latin has 2.
Like Latin, okay, yeah.
But unlike Latin, in the conjugated forms, there isn't really a significant difference. So like vedere, to see, but leggere, to read. The infinitives are different. But when you use infinitives a lot, like you do in every language, except languages that don't have them, like modern Greek, then you actually run into that being something that really marks your speech, as even if it's a native English speaker. When I hear them do that, I'm like, oh, you studied Spanish first. I think in my head. I don't point that out to them. That would be rude.
Let me try something. Because I know some Spanish and fairly little exposure to Italian. Let me see if I can guess Italian words from Spanish. Can I try that?
Certo.
All right, so raven, we just had a flyover.
Uh-huh.
El cuervo.
Corvo.
Okay, this I was about to guess.
Damn it! Oh, you're supposed to decipher it. Okay,
All right.
pick another one.
So what I was thinking is Spanish is that breaking of short O's to
Yes.
way. And I was thinking, from what I've seen of Italian, it doesn't.
Well,
So I flip. So I go back to like the more Latin form.
do I give you the input for the code now? Should you come across when that
Let
doesn't
me,
work?
Let me give you another example and
Yeah.
see if it holds true.
Okay.
So El Puerto.
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
Would that be Il Porto?
It is.
Okay. So the rule doesn't always hold though.
Right, it's Porto, but in Neapolitan it's Porto. I think Porto.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
excuse me, Neapolitan.
Some dialect
Porto.
things.
Yeah. The other so-called Italian dialects I regard as really their own separate languages, all kind of equal from having come from Latin. But yeah.
But wait, I'm a neophyte Italian learner. Suddenly my blood turns cold and you say all of these cities speak what are effectively different languages. What's the point of learning? What Italian do I learn?
Well, Standard Italian is known by essentially every single Italian in the country.
But what is Standard Italian?
Good question. Standard Italian is based off of the literary form of the Tuscan dialect or language, however you want the language variety descended from Latin from Tuscany.
Okay.
Specifically the Florentine version, because Dante was the first person to write in it. So Dante, Petrarch, and other authors, Manzoni, who wrote after, sort of codified and in a way created a language, first for the purpose of art and expression, but becoming more and more a language of commerce, not just education, and eventually only when the television and radio were really the television. Once the television came out, suddenly everybody in the country started to really learn Standard Italian.
I see.
Which was so past 70 years or so.
So when you learn Italian as a foreigner, are you basically learning to speak like in Florence? Is that would that be true?
I wish it were. So
Okay.
When I went to Florence, believing that, no one told me that modern Florentine has changed quite a bit in the past 700 years.
Oh.
Or at least it has several particular things which are not a part of Standard Italian. Notably, they have a different pronunciation of the letter C, especially as becomes a fricative for most of the time. So, like Coca-Cola, which is Italian for Coca-Cola, is Hávamál. It can be just a glottal fricative, Hávamál, or it could be, which is the most hilarious one, but it could be velar fricative, like Coca-Cola. And it's said that this is due to Etruscan substrate, or at least it's hypothesized.
It's been a long time since there's been an Etruscan substrate anywhere.
Emperor Claudius was supposedly the last one who knew it.
but that's
yeah.
That sounds like Grimm's Law.
Really?
Like Karacha.
Yeah, Karacha.
I mean, that's like English. It's like Latin canis is English hund.
Yeah,
right? It's the same. That's Grimm's Law is Karacha.
Right.
Part of Grimm's Law.
Canis hund.
So, I've heard the expression. How does it go? Something like lingua toscana and bosca romana. Is that Standard Italian?
Bravo, quasi.
Okay.
Questo è quasi un bosco. This is almost a forest. But bocca is mouth. So
Look, I don't know.
No, bravissimo. Sei bravissimo.
I just saw this somewhere.
No, it was great. It's amazing since you're not. Yeah, exactly. La lingua toscana nella bocca romana.
Okay.
So yeah.
So you've got that also. That's another thing about
Romana.
Italian is you got those prepositions with the article, right?
Yes.
The nelle.
Portuguese has that too.
That's pretty cool.
I think that is really cool. Because when Spanish didn't have that, except for like del, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Because that's something too, and I think that's worth talking about, because I've often experienced that. If it's not like Italian, maybe it's from my wonderful father who loves Italian too, this kind of like, it's not as good as, that in my, and people have that, I think. It's like, if some people know Spanish and they go to Italian or French, it's like, it's not like this thing I already know. And have you had this bias? I remember feeling this. I'm no longer experiencing this.
Icelanders who can look at continental Scandinavian languages is basically Icelandic if you got hit on the head by a mule.
Okay, so it does. That's good.
So I'm just asking some random questions here as I'm getting curious about them. Here's another one. Say I learn Standard Italian pretty well.
Okay.
I'm conversational.
Bravo.
I can get along.
Okay.
Can I go pick up Dante and read it proficiently? Okay.
You can read it it's pretty as well as Italians can today. But Italians, they study it in school, and I'd say it's comparable to Shakespeare. It's modern. Essentially, it's like Shakespeare's early modern English. And from my more superficial view, I think it's similar, because there are some things about it which are just not. You can see it's clearly the same language, and most of the vocabulary, the grammatical forms, are the same. but sometimes they're just the words have different meanings, or they aren't really used that much anymore. But if you know Latin, which you do,
yeah, so it's doable.
Very doable.
Well, and I was trying to kind of steer away from Latin because I feel like more people might come at this from a Spanish-speaking background than a Latin-knowing background.
True.
But as far as Latin goes, would I be able to come at it from Latin and anticipate, for example, noun genders? Would they mostly be predictable from Latin?
Absolutely.
Verb classes be predictable from Latin?
Yes.
Okay. So I could learn as a proficient reader of Latin to anticipate certain changes. I could
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, you can. Yeah, the only simplifications probably worthy of note would be Latin has 5 declensions, 5 basic patterns of nouns. Italian reflects that, but only kind of 3 versions of them. It would be in Italian things like, if an adjective, for example, you might have buono, buona, but then there's other adjectives like forte, and adds it in letter E and not in an O or an A. Forte is either masculine or feminine. Its plural is forti, masculine, feminine. Just like Latin, fortis and fortes.
Yeah, but there's stuff like that in Spanish too. So it's
exactly, it's just like Spanish. So that's not strange at all. And the noun class is the same kind of thing. I really liked your idea, though. Can you actually backwards form a word? So let me give you.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
Because that was really good.
Not wondering if I can do it from Latin.
Well, I can give you.
Right.
But
but so.
Latin probably easier.
Okay, so there's got to be some pretty easy ones here, and there's got to be some harder ones. I mean, we were just thinking about this example of corvus.
Right.
So that's apparently corvo.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Well, let me give you another one.
Usizo. But here's one that I wonder about a little bit. A man. Homo.
Right.
Correct? So in Italian, am I right in thinking that's uomo?
It is. That's right. Vowel breaking.
Okay, so there is breaking, but it doesn't pattern like Spanish.
Partially.
Okay.
And there is one wonderful and significant difference. I mean, I love Spanish, but I'm really fond of Italian and Latin and other languages too that have this particular quality. It's about the consonants. And if I'm trying to think of a good example, for example, in Spanish, ¿Cuántos años tienes? And do you know what that might be in Italian?
How old are you?
Yeah, can you backwards form that into Italian?
All right. I mean, I'm going to do this badly.
That's going to be fun.
If I just had to guess, quanti,
bravo,
anni,
for,
tenes.
That's Latin. So what happens in Italian a lot is that final S will usually become an I. So
the S becomes an I.
And it does have the vowel breaking in certain
situations.
Tieni.
Tieni,
yeah. Excuse me, but that would be the literal word, because instead of using the verb tener like Spanish, to have, there's also that verb haber that Spanish has, but it's only used for like an auxiliary verb.
Right.
Italian still has it like Latin, like habere in Latin, avere in Italian, so it's quanti anni hai have you, do you have?
But if I said tieni?
Tieni is you hold, yeah, tieni.
I could say that and be understood, it would just sound kind of Spanishy.
Exactly. It would sound like, how many years do you hold?
It's the Lord of the Cosmos that I am.
Yeah, so and that's really good. So that middle word too is the one I was kind of thinking of, anni or anno, year, because with that double consonant, which is a feature in Latin and a lot of older languages, but it's gone in almost all the other Romance languages. Like Spanish doesn't have it. The double N becomes the ñ, años. But it's in Italian, it's anni or anno singular, because with one N, it's anno, which means anus. So Italians always get a kick out of a foreigner saying something.
So I need to watch this if I learn Italian about distinguishing my geminate consonants from my singular.
The geminate consonants are absolutely fundamental, and that's
so anno versus anno.
Bravissimo.
Okay.
And another
bravissimo.
Bravissimo.
Yeah,
double
okay.
S.
All right, I get you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's really unusual in a Germanic language nowadays. Yeah. So that is hard to learn.
The geminates in Icelandic, for example, are to distinguish short vowels, right? Or do they actually mean long?
Yeah, I mean, in modern Icelandic, there's not a difference between like SS and S. There is a difference between LL and L, but it's not
double T.
But it's not
like
length.
Aspiration.
Yeah, that's
right?
pre-aspiration. But in Old Norse, probably it was articulated like an Italian. But in most of the modern Germanic languages, it's vowel length related.
Right.
But that's not what this video is about. This video is about Italian.
This is still valuable.
And you've taught me quite a bit about Italian. You've intrigued me. You've made me feel unintimidated about the prospect of approaching.
Well, I'm delighted about that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll put on some resources, at least in the description of the video. if not here on the screen, that you can go find to learn more about the Italian language. And oh, wait, one more little coda thing is how do you predict that? It's if there's a consonant cluster. So that's why it's Porto and not Puorto, but it's Buono.
Oh,
and it's Tieni because of just one
Okay.
consonant that's in the way. Well,
All right. So if I want to demonstrate that I've grasped my lesson here, let me think of another example real quick. I
fire.
can never think of examples off
Elder.
the top of my head. I was about to say it's not elder in Italian.
No, I'm using one of the languages, you know.
So ignis,
Right, but you're gonna have to you need Spanish to help you with this for the Italian word.
fuego.
Right.
Okay. So in Italian, is this uogo or fuogo?
Fuogo is getting closer. Do you know what the Latin word it comes from might
Oh,
be?
focus.
Focus. Yeah.
So
Focus.
is it fuoco?
Bravissimo. Ecco.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this is a great example. When you do know a language, if you maybe have a little bit of smattering of Spanish or French or something, you can use that to really help you to gain vocabulary as you learn the language. So
Yeah.
thank you so
see?
much, Jackson. I really appreciate this.
Even me with my wretched Spanish, I managed to feel my way through a little bit of Italian here. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
thank you so much for that.
And thank you. So I guess from Colorado, we will say ciao.
And all the best. Luke, you're telling me they have their own language in Italy? I don't know.
Believe it or not.